Let's first go to Canberra and catch up with Michael Shoebridge, who's the Director of Defence Strategy at the National Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Straight up, the China debate, it is heated. Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, I think it's good to have a debate, a national debate before an election on one of the most important policy issues that whoever is in government after this next election will face. I think we've got to be honest with ourselves. There is no reset moment. You're right. Some former politicians and even currently serving officials harbour nostalgic dreams of a return to the past. But while ever Xi is in power, that's not going to happen. And why this matters is there are a whole lot of decisions that the Australian government will have to take whoever wins the next election, and that will flush out any differences and gaps. Things like how important is it to take collective action with other powerful democracies? How much will Australia speak up and try to lead debates rather than just be a quiet follower? These are all things where differences will matter and where cohesive national policy is critical.
What could it do in terms of our own foreign policy interests? Can a pretty heated debate here do any damage to Australia's standing in the region or its relationship with China?
Well, I think the results of the debate will be important, and we'll see that from whoever is the government after the election, making the kinds of decisions I've talked about. But it is important to powerful partners we have. Think of the Japanese, Indian and US foreign ministers and Secretary of State that came to Australia, met in Melbourne last week. They came in large part because of our China policy and the implementation we've seen. So our policy is bringing us closer to these powerful friends and partners. That's what we need to see continue.
Well, I went through some of the differing views in Labor in the introduction, as you mentioned. I left out, of course, Premier Daniel Andrews had signed up to the Belt and Road Initiative, even though the federal Labor Party disagreed with that. Can you finally tell me, Michael, we know that Labor's stated policy is to be basically bipartisan with the current government's position. Are you confident that they can deliver such a policy given those machinations within their own party?
Well, they know they've got a job of work to do with these former luminaries hoping that the 1990s and the early 2010s can return. But they also know if they listened to those party elders, they'd be mugged by the reality of Xi. So I think we can see that that is the reality they face. And I think the harder heads in Labor know that.
Yeah, reality might keep them on track. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael.